What's up, good people? Welcome back to another episode of Undrafted Views. We're here. We talk sports from the sidelines. And today we're going to talk about our observations from the conference finals. Let's get into it.
So currently, the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat are duking it out in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we have the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks, who a lot of people didn't think would be where they are right now, also playing in the Western Conference Finals. What are some of your thoughts so far from the games we've seen?
One of my observations is that the role players on these teams that are currently in the conference finals have really shown up and have been a difference maker in one way or the other, offense or defense, when we're talking about wins and losses for the teams. Like if you think about the Miami Heat, they have who? Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. Hi, welcome to the party. And then you
Yeah.
have on Boston, you got Pritchard and Grant Williams been showing out. And then on the Warriors, Jordan Poole, who we all should know if you've watched any NBA games in the regular season. If you've watched postseason, you know Jordan Poole is going to be Jordan Poole. But then you also have Otto Porter Jr., who's come in and really has helped as a role player on the Warriors. The only question that I have about the role players is when it comes down to the Dallas Mavs. Now, I know that we have Spencer Dinwiddie. I just don't know if he's been given enough. So what I'm saying is that the role players collectively have really been able to shine in this particular um, stage of the playoffs. And I think it has been the difference maker in these teams being able to win or lose for that matter.
Okay. Now, Grant Williams is one of my observations. I think he's a fantastic defender and has made a name for himself in these conference finals. I think he's Boston Celtics X factor.
I can
I mean, because
support
he really
that.
reminds me of PJ Tucker, but a little
Ah,
bit more athletic, obviously
yeah,
a lot younger.
yeah,
Because I'm telling you, he plays a lot bigger than what he is. I mean,
yeah.
he in the series prior against Giannis Antetokounmpo, he guarded him better than anybody I've seen so far.
I'm just telling you, you know what? One of the things that Grant Williams is able to do is that when he comes off the bench, he is explosive again on offense and defense. And I like the fact that he plays, like you mentioned, bigger than what he seems. It's almost like Boston Celtics have about two players. Marcus Smart is one of those players, bigger than he seems, right? And now Grant Williams also from the bench can assume that spot as well. And I think that has really been a difference maker, to your point, X factor for the Boston Celtics success in the postseason. I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Now,
Hmm.
also as it relates to the Boston Celtics, I've been really impressed with Ime Udoka's ability to like make in-game adjustments and to really focus on gameplay and discipline with the guys. I mean, they've all bought into his system. If he decides to bring in, like for example, Grant Williams instead of Robert Williams, because Robert couldn't really play outside of the paint, I
Right.
think players were kind of like, okay, that's fine. Whatever you say, coach, we are going to follow your scheme because it's worked for them towards the end of the regular season and into the playoffs. So I really like what Ime has been able to do.
Oh my, considering how he started off and to be
Yes.
in the Boston Celtics to be where they are today in the postseason is an actual transformation. It is all about going through the growing pains because I think that's what it was early on, going through the growing pains of coach player connection, coach player ideals on what their team should look like, and
Hmm.
being able to be bought into the system. And then when that connection is successful, this is what we're seeing when we're talking about the Boston Celtics at this stage of the playoffs. And I think that is really a testament to how astute and confident that Ime Udoka is in his coaching ability. So it's been amazing. But yeah, I think that Grant Williams is a difference maker. I also have to say that I'm not mad at Max Strus,
Okay.
undrafted, on the Miami Heat. Like when we're talking about players that can come off the bench, because Tyler Hero's been compromised, right? And so what I was expecting to see Tyler Hero do in the postseason, I'm not seeing. And for whatever reason, I think his hamstring or something is kind of he's compromised, but he's not been able to do what he did in the regular season, which actually earned him six man of the year.
Right.
I'm not seeing that result in the postseason. So it is great to have players that can come in and fill in the gaps, right? When your roster you built your roster to have players outshine and shine, i.e., Duncan Robinson.
Oh, goodness.
And when that doesn't happen, you can tell the success of a roster when you can go a little bit deeper. And when those players now they get their opportunity and they're able to shine in some way. So I think that's really good. And so
Hmm.
for me, the two teams, role players in particular, are really huge for this particular conference finals.
Now, I mentioned earlier that I did not see the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. I think everybody thought it would be the Phoenix Suns.
I know
In
I did.
fact, I really wanted it to be the Phoenix Suns, and it took some of the wind out of my sail when the Suns didn't make it to the Western Conference Finals. Because I mean, the Suns and the Warriors would have been a better series. Don't you agree?
Yes, more competitive in my opinion at this stage of the playoffs. Yes, I think it would have been more competitive. I just the Suns. Is that another video? Because I'm just like the demise of the Suns in the postseason.
Oh
Oh
gosh, I
my God! Yeah.
know.
Anyway, yes.
Very
So Dallas Mav.
disappointing.
Oh, oh my gosh.
But you
Hmm.
know what? Since the Mavs are here, I'm gonna
Hmm.
give them their respect. Jason Kidd has to be fantastic on the sidelines in order for them to even make it to the NBA Finals. I also think Spencer Dinwiddie and Brunson both have to play great collectively because we know what we're going to get from Luka Doncic. I mean, we know that man has proved that he's ready for the stage. I am so impressed with Luka Doncic.
Wow. Well, I
Hmm.
can tell you, I'm just gonna go back to the previous series with the Mavs and the Suns just real quick. Luka Doncic was the best player on in that series, hands
Yes.
down. Facts. Even in the loss, even in the losses that they may have had, although they won the series, Luka Doncic, he is built for whatever the league has to offer for him in the future. So that's one thing. But I can say, while you mentioned the Mavs, another observation, I think that the Mavs are just outmatched in this particular series at this stage. Now, I know that the Mavs can maybe win a couple of games, but I think at the end of the day, the experience of the Warriors, the firepower on the Warriors, the playmakers on the Warriors, the defensive efforts on the Warriors team will just eventually be the difference maker between a win and a loss for the Dallas Mavs in this series. And I think that the Warriors will be victorious. But I can say this: if Dorian Finney-Smith does not give the Mavs another rendition of Game 4 in the conference semifinals, the Mavs can pretty much forget about it. I'm gonna need
Hmm.
another. I'm gonna need another Dorian Finney-Smith showing in the next few games. I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna need it to happen because that can help the team. Like as great 42 pieces that Luka Doncic can put up, his craftiness on
Yes.
offense, who's going to help him when that is not enough? And if like Brunson can come to the party, and actually, matter of fact, Brunson and Luka can come to the party, and if nobody else comes with them, they're gonna lose.
Yes. Yes.
So, and I don't know if it's maybe they lack defense, maybe, but the Warriors, they're just experienced. They just know when to shift it. If you watched two, game two when the Mavs were up,
Yep. Hmm.
and the Warriors like, okay, they just the words just gives me like, okay, what y'all up so, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
won a game so, and like we gonna get you anyway. That's kind of how I feel about that, and I think it's because they're so comfortable. The Warriors are so comfortable in their quest for championships because they've been here before, and so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the Warriors have found their next group of superstars.
I
Jordan Poole,
agree.
Jonathan Kuminga, Gary Payton II, and we still have not seen James Wiseman. Once we get those four dudes, oh my God, developed, and this is part of their development right now, making it this deep in the playoffs. Oh man, the Warriors stand by. I mean, they're going to be really good for years to come.
And I think what I love about the Warriors franchise is that they are willing to develop.
Hmm.
They are willing to play the game of developing their players to be who they need for them to be on for that culture. And we've
Yep.
seen that with Steph, Draymond, Clay. Like it's almost like, is this the right way to do it? For some franchises, it may be. Right. And so I think that as long as those players that you just mentioned buys into their system, which I believe they have a nice future in the words. I can see them winning a championship down the line, perhaps without Steph, Clay, and Draymond being the number one, two, and three. Maybe
Absolutely.
still on the roster, but just not, because eventually it's going to have to shift. And I think, as you mentioned, that they have what their future looks like already on their roster. I agree.
Okay.
I have another observation as well. I think that the Eastern Conference Finals winner will be based on the team that knows how to overcome player injuries. How will they manage their roster when their main players go out, i.e., Jimmy Butler in Miami. Kyle Lowry has been in and out of the lineup. You never know what how he may be feeling. Then you also have PJ Tucker had to leave early, for one reason or another. And Tyler Hero, I believe he's compromised right now, right? And then on Boston, you have Robert Williams III, who's in and out based on the ankle. When he's in the paint, what you gonna do with that? So when he's
Yeah.
not playing, then the Boston Celtics as a collective could be compromised, right? And then you have Marcus Smart,
Mm-hmm.
who injured his ankle and went out on the game. So
Oof.
what will these teams do? Because for me, this matchup in the Eastern Conference between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat is a great. When I tell you this is the competitive matchup I wanted to see with the Suns and the Warriors in the West, we're
Yes.
getting it with the East. And I believe it's going to go 1-for-1 each time, right? So you can never get too high or too low on any team that's currently winning or losing at the time, because it always changes when the next game takes place. So I think
Yes.
that this matchup is so great, that means for me to come to the realization that how they manage injuries with the players that are able to play can be the difference maker in whether or not this team, either Miami or Boston, win or lose this series.
Yeah, that's a good point. Battling through adversity, that's going to be huge. And it has been so far in that series. So,
Yes.
yeah, I agree
Yes.
with you on that. Can we talk about Bam Adebayo and how he has finally joined the playoffs? Because he was really like invisible early on in the Eastern Conference Finals
Yeah.
and much of the semifinals. I mean, it's like, come on, Bam. I have been waiting for this. And you had a breakout game, and the Miami Heat were able to secure that win against the Boston Celtics. So I'm happy to see what he's doing.
Yeah. Did you think that the mentioning of the awards during the playoffs impacts players on how they show up in the following games? I think about that when it comes to Bam, and I also think about it when it comes to Joel Embiid.
Mm.
Is that not being a part of an award that you believe should have won? Does that have a negative impact? And finding out during the time that you are competing for a championship,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the best time. I'm just curious. Do you think that
Yeah,
has
I
something to do with
definitely
it?
think it inspired Bam because
Mm.
let's think about it. He felt like he should have won Defensive Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And then he made the all NBA defense team. And it's like, okay, at least I got that. So I think it empowered him. And also, I think as it relates to Joel Embiid, I think it really worked against him,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know.
So perhaps the league needs to come up with a better way of announcing these awards. That's all I'm saying. Because, or I don't know, or is it saying much about the player? How can you overcome adversity? I don't know, or disappointments,
Mhm.
if you will, not necessarily adversity, but probably disappointments. It's just weird. But yeah, I would just wonder though, from a Bam perspective, because he actually really showed up and Jimmy wasn't there. Do you think that sometimes the Jimmy and Bam on the floor at the same time for extended periods of time can impact how successful Bam is overall?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely possible
Hmm.
because there's only one basketball, right? And Jimmy commands the ball. Like he has to have it in his hands. Now,
Yeah.
Bam, on the other hand, I think he gets kind of the leftovers, the rebounds, the putbacks, the aggressive nature of himself in the paint. I think he has to work for his a lot more when Jimmy is on the court. But when Jimmy went out with that knee, it was Bam's time to shine, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, which leads me to my next point. Will he be able to do it again? Bam, be able to show this performance again with or without Jimmy being on the court? That's just all I'm saying. So I'm waiting for him. You say he came to the party. Will he stay? I'm glad Bam Adebayo had a great game, and welcome to the party for real.
Yes, indeed. All right, you guys, we're going to wrap up this episode. Make sure you drop down in the comments and let us know what you think about this. And we will see you guys on the next one. But until then,
Peace.
peace, y'all.